Okay. So, oh, that's me. Sorry. Okay. So it is 6:30 and I'll just say that we're having difficulty with Monique Antoine Hartley's camera, but she is in the building. And then we have Councillor Kelman, who is with us remotely. So just for those who might be tuning in, are we live? Okay, good. So I will ask everybody, I'll call the meeting to order at 6:30 and I'll ask everybody to stand for the playing of Old Canada. Thank you, everyone. So this is Monday, April 14th, council meeting for the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands. First item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda, moved by Deputy Mayor Fody, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that the agenda be adopted as circulated. Any comments or questions? Remind me and holler at me, Councillor Kelman, if I do not see your hand up at any point in time during the meeting. So I'll apologize in advance if I miss you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And all those opposed, and it is carried. Next item is declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Does anybody have an interest to declare? I have no hands up here. Move on to in camera and reporting out of in camera, which there are none. And then on to the consent agenda. Motion comes from Councillor Maybe, seconded by Councillor Antoine Hartley, that the March 18th, 2025 council meeting minutes be adopted as circulated, and the February 25th, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes be received and filed. Discussion on the minutes. Any errors or omissions? Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, I learned from Councillor Maybe there is a small miscue on going by memory. It was in the Committee of Adjustments minutes. Let me pull it up. And it was their pronoun was, he was put in as Mr. instead of Miss.
Okay, we can have that indicated and corrected. We'll get the correct
Find it.
item. Any other errors or omissions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Next item. Staff reports. Moved by Deputy Mayor Fody, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that council approve the staff reports as recommended at the April 7th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting. So motion is on the floor and you have staff reports 9.1 through 9.6. If there's any further comment or question, I'm willing to entertain that without having to pull it out. Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
9.1.
9.1, okay. Is there any other items?
Thank you. Through your worship, 9.3.
I have nothing else, so I'll go to Councillor Lackey in regards to 9.1.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to you, during our discussions last week, we kind of looked at the idea of approving part of the motion rather than its entirety. Policy being one thing, and then the acknowledgement being the other, and that to do with the planning department and their day-to-day activities and how they're already negotiating this path. I would like to see if there's a will of council that, again, we accept the acknowledgement and ixnay on the rest of it.
So your motion is to approve the land acknowledgement, but not the framework.
Correct.
Okay. So in order to do that, we would have to pull this from the, so we would have to amend this staff report motion to pull 9.1. But before we do that, I'm going to go to Deputy Mayor Fody in regards to the fit for duty policy to see if we need to pull that as well before we have an amendment, if that's okay with the clerk. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Last week, we had the discussion on the penalties for the most severe situations. Has the wording changed on any of this?
No, I don't believe so, but I'll go to the CAO.
Thank you, Worship. Through you. No, the wording hasn't changed. There is still the depending on the severity, there is an option for termination if that is so warranted. But also keeping in mind that there is a progressive disciplinary cycle as well. So things can escalate, but if it is a severe breach of the policy, then certainly termination is a consideration.
Okay, excuse me. If I may follow up, is it clearly defined as to what these escalation steps could or would be?
You tend to avoid examples because then you are hemmed in as to what you can do. If you say, well, I don't know, just you show up and you look impaired. Well, that's we send you home. If you use those examples, then those examples be kind of, it's how you interpret the policy. By leaving it so that it is a progressive disciplinary framework, it gives the management just that discretion to tailor the punishment based on the history, what the actual circumstances are, and so on. So to just say if you show up and you're impaired, you're fired. Well, if it's a unionized employee, we'd be grieved right away. And not to say that that's a deterrent for us to take appropriate action, but it has to be measured. It also has to you also have to take in the circumstances that the person may be impaired and not even know that they were impaired because they're on a new prescribed medication. So it's those types of things. You need to have some flexibility in this, and absolutes cut both ways. And so I think the policy strikes a balance where we have the option without hamstringing ourselves.
Okay, excuse me. I know this was a similar answer last week, and I guess I'll withdraw what I was thinking in lieu of letting it play out, if we will. And I trust the staff, and they know that they are representing the residents as no different than we are when we sit here. So in the worst case scenario, I would hope that the best case scenario comes out of it. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to amend or an amendment to the original motion to remove 9.1 Indigenous Peoples Relation Consultation and Communication Policy and Land Acknowledgement to be removed and reconsidered as a separate motion. Oh, sorry, I apologize. I thought. Go ahead, follow-up question before I put.
Through
it
you,
on the
sorry, Your
table.
Worship, through you to the CAO. Is this policy resemble another one? Like, is this kind of are other municipalities been there or soon be there, or and maybe not just municipalities, but other government agencies?
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. This is by no means a unique type of policy. It is quite common for other municipalities and other municipalities. I think we have borrowed heavily from the City of Kingston's policy. They tend to do a very thorough job. They have an in-house legal department that vets all of this stuff. And so we, rather than reinventing the wheel, we take a tried and true approach. So yeah, we're not out on a limb doing our own thing right now.
No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the clarifying question. So I'll go back to the original, your original comment, Councillor Lackey, that you're looking to amend the motion that currently reads that council approve the staff reports as recommended at the April 7th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting, except 9.1 Indigenous Peoples Relations Consultation, Communication, Policy and Land Acknowledgement. So I need a mover and a seconder for that amendment. So, okay. So I have Councillor Lackey making the motion to amend. I have Councillor Gorell seconding the amendment. So I will have discussion on the amendment. Okay, I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And that passes. So the amended motion reads that council approve the staff. Sorry, I just want to make sure. That council approve the staff reports as recommended at the April 7th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting, except 9.1 Indigenous Peoples consultation. So all in favor of the motion at hand, amended? All those opposed, and it is carried. Okay, so the new motion that is on the floor is to approve the staff report for 9.1 Indigenous Peoples Relations and Consultation and Communication Policy and Land Acknowledgement. So that motion will go on the floor and then be amended based on conversation at that time, okay? If there is a will of council. So the motion, I need a mover and a seconder to put that motion on the floor in regards to the staff report. I'll have Councillor Maybe and then Councillor Lackey seconding. Okay. So the motion is on the floor for 9.1. So the recommendation discussions in regards to approving the land acknowledgement, but not the relations consultation and communication policy pertaining to this item. I'd like to hear some discussion on that before we entertain the motion to remove the first and only approve the latter. Any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Groh.
As I had said previously, I think that as a lower tier government, we are hitting above our weight. As I previously said, I do appreciate there are sort of three components here to Indigenous reconciliation. And the portions that bother me in hitting above our weight as a lower tier government is the idea of economic reconciliation. I do appreciate that the province is asking communities such as ours, perhaps through whether it's planning policy statements, whatever. But that policy as written was very prescriptive and legalistic, I guess. And I appreciate that people want to have a moral good. They want a moral universal thinking. I appreciate that. I'm not smart enough to go through everything in that document and feel comfortable with it, but there are many things I'm uncomfortable with. And I'm not going to highlight them. In general terms, I've spoken of it. So I'm in favor of, and I don't know how to go about this. Frankly, I would vote in favor of the land acknowledgement. And I would really like, whether it be a further discussion or talk to the county, talk to Kingston, because once again, my limited research into what other municipalities are doing would put us, I'm not even going to say advanced. It's again, very prescriptive, and I'm not in favor of the prescription. And I don't want to sound, I don't want to sound like a bigot or a racist, because I'm not. But that's a very cohesive piece of policy, and I don't want to see us put there. Thank you.
Okay, so in regards to your comment, Councillor Gorell, as far as right now, I'm just looking for discussion on all of it. And then if, depending on what other further discussion comes out of it, we will entertain an amendment to the motion approving the land acknowledgement and receiving the staff report or the Indigenous Peoples Relations Consultation and Communication Policy as information. So it wouldn't be accepting it as a policy. So your comment is that you would be willing to move forward with the land acknowledgement. So approving the communication strategy, approving both relations consultation and communication policy, as well as the land acknowledgement, is approving it in its whole entirety. But receiving the Indigenous is just receiving the information, not putting it into place. Or we can say, you can amend it to say that you reject the consultation and communication policy. So but I don't want the amendment yet. I want to hear from other councillors just at this point. So go ahead, Councillor Bodie.
Thank you, Your Worship, but through you. Last week I said, when we had time to chat about it here, that I would be in favor of this. I've since changed my mind on this, thinking back and looking back at what was said. I will ask for clarity from our Director of Planning and Development. You're working under the provincial policy, which is already in place for said subject matter, correct?
Through you, yes, we as planning staff are, as I indicated, it's not just a planning matter though. There's many other pieces of provincial legislation that require consultation, including environmental assessment, and other provincial statutes. So it's not simply planning.
Okay. But like Councillor Gorell, there's some of the wording in there that seems to handcuff us to some financial obligations yet to be known in the future. And that is, the word policy is part of that. The land acknowledgement, I think, if I'm understanding Councillor Lackey correctly, is we can pass the acknowledgement part of it. Let's just back away from the policy part of it. It doesn't make us bigoted or anything else. That's not how I am as well. I can relate to those lands, as I've said before at this table. But I just want to stay away from the policy at this point. We could always stiffen it up, if you will, and make it a policy at a later time if something comes to light and a reason for us to do so. I just don't feel we're there yet. Thank you.
I see Councillor Kelman's hand up, so I'll acknowledge Councillor Kelman.
Thank you, Your Worship. And for you, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, I apologize for my voice. I remain in favor of approving this policy as I was last week. I've read it again several times. I recognize that the wording is different from what we're used to seeing in policies, and I think that's because it's a different kind of policy. And I remain convinced that I'm happy to be a leading municipality on this. And I think it's incumbent upon us to join the higher levels of government in supporting the truth and reconciliation movement. And I think that no matter when we decided to go ahead with a policy like this, because it would be a new policy, we may find that hiccups will come along and that adjustments will need to be made, but we have to start at some point. And I would rather do it now before a problem arises, before we decide to widen a road or build a new building. And all of a sudden we've discovered a site and we don't have a policy in place to deal with it. And that could happen this year. It could happen next year. It could happen in 5 years. We don't know. I think we need to have it in place now for our staff and for our community, for our residents. And as I reread the policy, and listened to the tone of it, I reminded myself that this policy was consulted upon by Indigenous peoples. Our consultants were Indigenous. And that is also part of the reason that it sounds different from our other policies. And I just don't feel like it's my place to argue with the wording of this policy because I am not an Indigenous person. So I will not speak for them and how they think a policy should be written. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna recognize the CAO and then I'm gonna recognize Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. This is a different looking policy from everything that we've done in the past. The question of are we punching above our weight class here? Well, maybe we are, maybe we aren't. However, the province in its wisdom has downloaded requirements for us to engage in Indigenous consultation. So it literally is, you're going to consult with Indigenous communities on what have you. They're really short on the details of how to go about this. So the policy is a framework for us on how we approach this whole, who do we talk to? How do we go about it? When do we need to do it? There are some financial commitments in here, but it's more along the lines of fees for consultation that an Indigenous group may charge. But on the commitment on the economic reconciliation, Councillor Gorel raised, with respect to our, there's a section 3.5 in the policy that talks about informing local Indigenous owned businesses on the potential for procurement opportunities, and that we would conduct some research with First Nations to seek out to involve these businesses in procurement opportunities. And once that's happened, first let's identify, do we have any local Indigenous businesses, and do they do things that would be something that the township would need in the future? And it would be a matter of simply notify them when we go to market on a public procurement that, hey, this opportunity is out there. It's not that we have to direct business to an Indigenous business. It's not that at all. It's just giving them an opportunity to be aware that there is a procurement and to compete. There are things that council have expressed a discomfort with, and I understand that. And, you know, we need to talk to the county or to some other jurisdiction about what this means. The firm that we retained was experienced. They had First Nations people on the team that helped develop this. And so, you know, I'm comfortable with the document. I know it's a living document, as we talked about at the committee of the whole, and that this isn't a one and done, that this is going to be the format of this forever. You know, we talked about it last time. There is a lot of verbiage on considerations and examples of things that we need to take into account. It's not prescriptive in that respect that we must tick boxes and go through lists of things. So, you know, I guess my question is, if we don't have this, then what do we have? If we don't have a policy in place to guide us, then how are we going to manage this? So do we just say, okay, well, council's not applying this or hasn't approved this, but nevertheless, we've got this information and we're just going to use it anyway? Or what's the direction here from council? How do you want us to proceed on this? Do you want us to go back to the consultant and have them rewrite and take this, you know, to the point of wishy-washiness, to the point that it is just more words and no actions? Or what? I guess I need some direction on how we want to go if we're not going to use this.
So I'm going to go to Counselor Lackey and then we'll see if we can, if there is an amendment, then it will provide direction to council as well. Go ahead, Counselor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I find myself a lot like a carpenter. I like to measure twice and cut once. So while it was mentioned that, yes, we did consult with Indigenous peoples, there are many different. Some Indigenous would look at this and say, that isn't what I would have done. That isn't what I would have suggested. So not only do I not think it's perfect, but what is the rush? I mean, if it's there, we paid the consultant. It can be like a lot of other studies that are sitting on the shelves of the offices here that we have that are never looked at. No slight against anybody on that. It's just a comment, random. The information will be there should we need it. But I don't see where we need to rush and put this into place, and then we're bound to something that, yeah, it can come back to council. But as I said last week, very rarely does anything like that come to council unless it's some sort of catastrophe. So I mean, we can defer it forever. We can defer it for a year. I'm not sure what I'd like to tell you. I'd like to acknowledge them. Again, I have no ill will. I'm neutral. That's what I'm here for, is for all sides. So I honestly don't see the need. I'd like to acknowledge the fact of the land we're on and be thankful. But as far as policies for this township, I don't see why we can't wait.
So I have Counselor Maybe, and
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, I was just kind of thinking, would it be helpful to have a delegation actually come and talk to us about this? So we maybe get a better understanding from that point of view also. And to the point, it really doesn't have to be done right now, but maybe with some more information from potentially the group who talked to you initially about this, or even a different group to get another opinion. Again, the more knowledge we have, the better we're going to make it if we're going to do it. Thank you.
Okay. So before I go ahead, Counselor Antoine Hartley.
So I absolutely understand everybody's feelings about the financial aspects of it and the prescriptiveness and everything. However, it's been over 10 years since Truth and Reconciliation, and we're just kind of getting around to this now. If we defer this even farther, how much longer before we actually have a policy in place? Now, I understood that most people are fine with the land acknowledgement, but not the policy per se. And I think Madam Mayor, you actually gave a solution to that it not be, but I think we need to move forward with something, at least to give guidance. And I agree with Councillor Kelman that this could hit us in another way tomorrow, maybe a year from now. What's the financial ramifications of going back to getting more consultants too? So anyways, I'm still in favor of this.
Okay. So based on the feedback from council, it seems that everybody at this point is now comfortable with the land acknowledgement. So there's that piece of it. However, as per the comment from the CAO, if we are to remove the consultation and communication policy piece of this motion, what happens to that? So because council or staff needs some sort of direction as to where it goes or what the next steps are. I think that Councillor Maybe's most recent request for potentially having a delegation from the consultant to explain the particulars of the policy and the consultation piece and what that does. Because not only does it educate us as council members, but it also educates the public as to what the rationale is behind that. It may not change council's decision, depending on which way you want to vote on this. However, it would potentially give further information and comfort with what the policy is it's intended to do. So I guess what I'm looking for is based on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody else wants to take a stab at it, is that the motion be amended to read that council approves the land acknowledgement and requests that the consultant come to further explain, discuss Indigenous peoples' relations, consultation, and communication policy for further consideration. So that is an amendment to the existing motion. I know it's not really amending it's rewriting the whole motion, but I was trying to do the best on the fly here. So is that a problem, Madam Clerk?
Through you, can we accept it for information and request that staff bring it back at either when?
We can do it that way too.
Yeah.
Okay.
When the consultants are able to speak to it or.
Okay. So based on the advice of the clerk is that we accept this for information. It does not make it automatically a policy. If we choose to use the land acknowledgement going forward, that isn't against anything either. But what it does is it gives staff the direction to potentially bring back the consultant or have further discussion about that.
That's correct. And then at the end of this meeting, there are bylaws for each, the land acknowledgement and the policy. They're split out so we can approve the land acknowledgement and ask for the policy to be deferred.
Okay. So I guess it's a motion to defer. Or isn't that what you said?
We'll amend this motion and then we'll defer the bylaw when it comes forward at the end of the meeting.
Got it. So amend the motion that's on the table, which is to accept
The land acknowledgement.
the land acknowledgement. It would be reading that we
Receive it for information.
we
the
receive it for
policy.
information, and that further discussion and presentation come forward from the consultant. So do I have a mover for that amendment? Counselor Maybe, do I have a seconder? Okay, I have Counselor Lackey seconding it. So this is to amend the original motion to just receive this as information. Any discussion on the amendment? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. Councillor Lackey's, was it not a motion at first, seconded
No,
by
I
Councillor Grinnell?
did not, there was no motion on the floor. I asked for an input from council before I amended the motion.
Okay. So Councillor Lackey's statement originally was to approve
Approve
the
the land
acknowledgement, but not the policy, right?
Which is what the
Okay.
intention will be,
Right.
is that if we accept the amendment,
Mhm.
that we're just receiving this as information purposes, that during not the confirmation bylaw. Yes. The bylaws, when we go to approve the bylaws, we can approve the bylaw just for the land acknowledgement and defer the bylaw for the consultation and communication policy.
Good,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, clear as mud. Go ahead, Councillor Grow.
This is by way of a comment. I think this council would benefit if we understood exactly what the province and the feds want done. Because here we are, and I appreciate what has been said, sort of from again, called the legalistic side of things. However, I'm not comfortable with precisely, let me say this. In my mind, the economic reconciliation with First Nations belongs at the federal government and the provincial governments. It's as simple as that to me. And I appreciate that all governments want to download and they just want to make right down to the local level, you're responsible. I want to see that, and I'm sure it is there if the province wants to actually step up and say it out loud and clearly. I would like clarity in what they are asking, and I want it on paper before we go about.
Okay.
Okay, I know I've heard and read many things, but I would like to see the people actually responsible write a document that says your township must, blah, shall, may, would be in your interest, whatever. And I that's what I want clarity on. Thank you.
To you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Councillor Grell, what do you mean by economic reconciliation? Just so I understand.
Just about economic reconciliation to me means everything I read in the news regarding partnerships. And again, I'm way over my level of understanding. Every day I see pipelines and and I see indigenous groups partnering up. I see indigenous groups getting, how do I say, a relationship with banking, that they have access to the funds they should have access to in a major way to make contributions to their First Nations. 640 First Nations exist in this country of ours. Economic reconciliation is an immense word, and I won't be trapped. I won't be saying I fully understand, but the idea of, excuse me, the idea to me of skewing the table, not skewing the table, the idea of singling out indigenous groups with the fraud that we've seen at the federal level, and that could permeate down here. And I don't know in what fashion, but there's always going to be somebody out there who's pretty good at it. And that doesn't sit well with me. Again, the federal government has been dealing with this for a long time. The provincial government gets their feet wet. So again, we're punching above our weight at this time, in my opinion. In answer to your question, I won't be trapped. I don't know the answer exactly as to what economic reconciliation means. I'm going to leave that to the big boys. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, Councillor Grell, I'm wounded that you think I would trap you. That's never been my intent. The calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission really surround that Indigenous communities have, and Indigenous people have, a right to participate fully in our society, because traditionally they haven't been allowed that opportunity, just as you and I would be allowed. So going a little out of the way to make sure that locally owned Indigenous businesses are aware of procurement opportunities is a step in the right direction on that. For reading and stuff, I don't think a document exists that says, here is what you need to do to meet your requirements, and here is why we're doing it, from the federal government or the provincial government. I think it's left to municipal governments to work with Indigenous communities and perhaps with the provincial ministry that's responsible for Indigenous affairs to get some guidance on all of this. But if you're looking for the magic, document that says everything, I don't think it really exists. But that said, we'll take a look for it and see if we can find anything that will help allay your fears. For recommended reading, I'd recommend reading the Truth and Reconciliation's calls to action that was published in 2015. Also the UN Declaration on Aboriginal Rights, which is available, because one of the calls to action is that Canada adopt the UN Declaration. In Canada, the federal government has indeed done that. So anyway, there's lots of information out there, but I'll see what I can do as far as getting you what you need.
Okay, so Any further comments in regards to the amended motion that reads that council approves the land acknowledgement and that the policy be received for information, that council requests that staff bring the policy back following a presentation from the consultants? So further comments or questions in regards to the amended motion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the motion at hand? All those opposed? And it is carried. Okay, thank you, folks. So we're moving on to information items. Moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Councillor Antoine Hartley, that the information items be received and filed. Are there any items on the agenda that council would like to discuss? Go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. 10.1. Let me just check my other page here. 10.1.
Okay, anyone else for discussion? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fode.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. 10.4.
Okay. I have no further hands up, so I'll go to 10.1, 2025 quotations for operational services and contracted trades. Discussion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to the Operations Director. My only question was, have we seen a marginal increase or a large increase year over year on this one?
Thank you, through your worship. Actually noticed a large increase with the operational services in terms of the facility maintenance. A lot more trades. Now that we're doing some work on our facilities, we're gaining a lot of interest. I think last year we were at 24, and this year we're at 31 or 33 trades that have actually submitted. So that's good. The road end of things, the operational roads with equipment, seems to be staying about the same. It fluctuates up and down, one or two contractors here or there, but it's remaining pretty much the same. But certainly with the facilities, we've seen a large increase.
Just as a follow-up, the actual cost per hour or for the equipment, have you seen an increase there?
Through your worship, the rates have increased with the equipment. The trades, with having a bunch of new ones come in, we're still learning what the balance is with that. But with the equipment, and it's pretty, it likely has to do with the tariffs and buying equipment and all those types of things, why we're seeing the rates jump up. But certainly they have escalated.
Okay. Any further comments in regards to 10.1? Seeing none, I'll go to Deputy Mayor Fode in regards to 10.4.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I read this piece that was presented to us 5 times, and I likely got a different opinion 4.5 times. I honestly don't like it. To me, I tried to come at it from different angles. To me, it's another example of the province downloading responsibility to the lower tiers. And should some of this end up in a courtroom someday, guess who picks up the tab? It isn't the province. It's us. Not that it could, not that it would, but it could. I don't like the idea that the provincial government has decided themselves that the mayor and 2 other council members could do all the things that they're indicating could be done here. Like most municipalities, the 7 of us on council sit here at this table. If the mayor and 2 others can't get that 1 other vote, maybe they shouldn't have that vote. I mean, in other words, maybe it shouldn't be passed. That's what we do here democratically every week that we meet, every month that we meet, I should say. And the democracy is my strong point here. I don't like playing with democracy. We have ample examples on this side of the border, the other side of the border, at different levels of federal, provincial, and state governments of what happens when democracy isn't upheld. Is this a slippery slope to put us on the same playing field as what some of these higher levels are doing? Because if it is, I want nothing to do with it. But getting back to what's presented here, statements like it allows bold action. Really? How about legal action? How about putting a policy up or whatever comes before us, and it flies or it sinks based on a worst case scenario 4-3 vote? I think the province is looking for scapegoats. I strongly feel that. They've done it before with a number of things. Doug Ford has been given two majority governments, and the best he can do is give more power to one or two people, three people at a council table. Really? To me, it's lame. Quite frankly, it's lame. And we don't need a mayor with more powers. I'm not worried about the person sitting in the mayor's chair tonight. There's no definitive dates on this. I could think of some people in the past that I definitely wouldn't want sitting in that mayor's chair with this kind of power. And that's what I'm going to stop right there. I will turn this down based on that alone. Thank you.
So any further comments or questions in regards to 10.4? I would like to take this opportunity to read correspondence that I sent out to my fellow council members last Thursday after this item was distributed Wednesday afternoon. Dear council members, and just before I go any further, this is based off of some conjecture that's been is going around in the neighborhood, if you will, just to be extremely clear on where I stand on this. Dear council members, following the communication sent out yesterday, I wanted to share my thoughts on the inclusion of TLTI in the list of municipalities granted strong mayor powers. Other municipalities such as Athens, Rideau Lakes, Gananoque, Elizabethtown, Kittley, and Prescott, among others, have been added. I was elected through a democratic process, and I hold the principles of democracy in high regard. I respect the collective decision-making process of this council, where we work collaboratively to make informed decisions. I also respect the electorate who chose us all to serve, and I believe that all decisions should be made carefully with input from every elected member. To date, I have never felt the need to consider overturning or vetoing a council decision. For this reason, I am not comfortable with the notion of strong mayor designation and have no intention of exercising such powers if formalized when the legislature reconvenes. I felt it was important to communicate my stance on this matter. While our council, despite occasional differences, has always maintained mutual respect, I do not believe that the interests or the opinions of any single individual should override the collective decisions of council. My primary concern regarding this power is its potential misuse in other municipalities and our own, for that matter, where future mayors might exploit this designation to bypass the democratic process and push through their own agenda. Additionally, I worry about the possible impact on municipal staff, who could face uncertainty if the mayor is granted the ability to make staffing decisions unilaterally. While I understand the provincial government's intentions behind this legislation, I don't necessarily believe that extending this power to mayors in smaller municipalities will achieve the desired outcomes. Since this correspondence will be included in next Monday's council package, I will be happy to address this matter publicly at the time and hear thoughts of my fellow council members. So I also want to bring forward to the public's attention that I made a public speech on Friday morning, which Councillor Antoine Hartley was in attendance to in Rockport, where I basically said the exact same thing. I understand that this is provided as a tool, and I appreciate the vote of confidence from Deputy Mayor Fody that he knows me well enough and trusts me enough to know that I would not utilize this power likely in any situation. We have been fortunate at this council table to be able to make decisions collaboratively and positively, even though the outcome may not have been what we had first thought. My concern is for future people. Many people run for these positions as mayor specifically, thinking that they have all-seeing, all-knowing, omnipotent one, where you can come in and look at the CAO and decide that you don't really want to deal with that person today. I don't think it's fair to municipal staff to be concerned about their career trajectories based on personality conflicts and maybe somebody trying to get their buddy in a CAO. It could be construed in many different ways. All I can say is that there are many people who would salivate at the chance to sit at this table, at the head of this table, to unilaterally make decisions. I did not run to be mayor for that purpose, nor have I ever treated this office in that purpose. So I felt it very important that I make my stance here this evening. It is on the record, and I might even send out a press release tomorrow, depending on how I'm feeling, but it's just important to me that people know where I stand. Thank you. So the motions that's on the floor is to receive the items and file them. So the motion is made by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Councillor Antoine Hartley. So all those in favor of receiving the information? All those opposed? And it is carried. Moving on to number 11, amendments to the procedural bylaw, moved by Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Gorell, that council give 3 readings and final passage to bylaw 2025-021 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 22-001 being a bylaw to regulate the proceedings of the municipal council and the conduct of its members and the calling of meetings. Discussion on the motion. Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Sorry, your worship, I lost my way. Is this where we kind of change up our
It's
agenda?
to allow, it's allowing the planning meetings to start at 6 and us go right into committee of the whole or council rather than waiting till 6:30 if we were done earlier. It just starts the meeting at 6 and gives us full reign to move forward.
Okay, so we're still coming up to the one, because I have 2025-021 as our bylaw.
That's a bylaw.
That's the bylaw.
That is the new bylaw.
Bylaw. So in there, we have the fact we're striking out some portions of our agenda and changing it.
Correct.
I do not wish to do that.
Pardon?
I do not wish to do
Oh,
that.
you do not wish to do that. Okay, I apologize. I didn't hear you the first time. So Councillor Lackey has indicated his disinterest in that. So you would be voting against it. Any further comment or question in regards to that? Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
And thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Yes, I did read through that also, and the 6 o'clock start is only for the public meeting. Typically, the meetings start at 6:30 if not.
Sorry, through your worship. So this will change it that the public meeting is now a part of the agenda. All council and committee of the whole meetings will start at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Just with regards to much of this is if someone could explain the benefit. Who does it benefit? Where did this come from? Because I know it didn't come from anyone around this council table. So I'm wondering where it is. We had the discussion. I realize it was a busy time of year. I think, in talking to Councillor Grell, it was around budget time. So we sort of pushed it aside for a little while. But I think at that time, most of us agreed that as a simple catch-all and to promote, again, democracy and conversation, the other business and that other should, I believe the way we left off was going to be left in there.
I'll let the clerk speak to, because it's not removing our ability to do any of those things. It's just following proper procedure.
Again, I asked who it's helping because it's.
Okay, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Sure, through your worship. So if I understand correctly, you're just asking about other business and unfinished business. So I have taken those out. Unfinished business in the rules of, in Robert's rules, unfinished business is for an item that has been tabled. If there was an item to be tabled, we could put back in unfinished business, but because we don't regularly table items, that section of the agenda, as I indicated, it's being improperly used. So that's where I have put in an allowance for statements and announcements by councillors. So what I've done is I've changed the wording, still the same thing. You can go ahead and speak to whatever you'd like, announce whatever you'd like. It's just procedurally, it should be called announcements and statements. It shouldn't be called unfinished business because unfinished business under Robert's rules is for tabled items.
Does that make sense, Councillor Lackey?
Sure. I guess so. I just find it unusual that after all these years, it all of a sudden doesn't work.
We were using it incorrectly.
Well, we may have, but again, the conversation I recall around the table was that it's our comfort level and it gives us a pot to use, whether it's right or wrong or used not correctly. I'm not sure, but anyway, I kind of like it the way it is.
CIO.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. This updates the procedure bylaw to bring it in a little more closer to better practices than what we have been doing, as the clerk and mayor have said, that unfinished business needs to be for a particular type of item. And our practice over the years has been that it's kind of a catch-all, free-for-all. We haven't taken away that pot. We're just calling it something different. So it's not that council will not have an opportunity to make statements and all that. It's just technically, we're correct in calling it statements or announcements from councilors and not including it in as unfinished business.
Go ahead again, Counselor, maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. So I did like that there was statements and announcements, because in the first draft of this, I thought that was taken right out. And we didn't have any opportunity, as much as we were said that we could say anything at any time. It does give it a bookmark. And then, as mentioned, the unfinished business could be certainly brought up at that time, because I know Councillor Lackey on many occasions has brought unfinished business forward for different items that he will recall. The other one that I was wondering is the closed session, why it's at the beginning of a meeting opposed to the end, because we do move it around at some points, and more often we put it at the end for the convenience of others who are in the chambers. Thank you.
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, through your worship. That's a great question. So this just alleviates the need for having to change the agenda in the meeting. So procedurally, if we do bump it to the beginning or wish to have it at the start, it just alleviates that. We can have it at any time. Generally, if there's somebody coming to speak to us that we don't want to hold them up through the whole meeting in that closed session, we could have it at the beginning. If we don't want to hold up the individuals in the galley and the rest of staff who aren't in that closed meeting session at the end, it just gives council and staff flexibility to have it when it makes the most sense.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Gorell, and then I'll go back to Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. Just when we look at, let's see, I'm looking at the agenda items for Committee of the Whole and then Council. This would be page 10 of 27 there. So it says adoption of agenda, closed session, delegations, briefings, public meetings, staff reports, then staff reports for information. I was just, I have no problem with it. I was just wondering what defines a briefing different from a staff report for information and briefings before a public meeting. What's the purpose of that?
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
What were you thinking?
Sure, certainly. So delegations are when an individual wishes to come forward to speak to council. They haven't been invited by staff or council members. A briefing is, say, a consultant. So the Indigenous policy consultant, that would be a briefing. There are different rules around delegations and briefings. So delegations can speak to certain things. Briefings would be invited by staff and council members.
Yep.
Staff reports.
Briefings on committees that they sit on?
That's further in that's further in the agenda. That's okay.
This is all new, so it's good that we're talking about all of this.
So staff reports are going to be staff reports that require a recommendation. So something that council will vote on. Staff reports for information are staff reports for information. Information items are items like that report that you saw that aren't brought forward by staff. They're solely for information. So it's just breaking those out a little for clarity. So there can be fulsome discussions on the staff reports aside from the other individual items for information from outside of staff members. There is also a spot in there for rise and report from committees. as well as their minutes. So that is a placeholder for anybody on committees, working groups, or local boards such as the CRCA board, the Heritage Committee. That is a placeholder for those minutes because they're being received and filed. They're not being approved by council. It's also a spot for those individuals who sit on those committees of council, working groups, and outside boards for them to give council an update on those individual items.
Which is how we have it at county as well. Go ahead.
Thanks for the clarity. That makes a good deal of sense. And just to follow up questions, when we had talked about this some months ago when this was first brought forward, public meetings. Can we once again define what are statutory required public meetings? Because that's what I'm assuming public meetings are. Can we talk about that a little bit here?
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
as what type of meetings are there? Thank you.
Absolutely, through your worship. So public meetings that you're going to see within that council agenda will be the meetings that you're seeing just before that, half an hour before council meetings. So you're not going to see the broad public open houses that invite all of the public for a road or a sidewalk or something that Director Holiday would be doing. You're going to see the public meetings, the statutory public meetings under the Planning Act that are required by Marnie and her staff to bring forward for zoning bylaw amendments, official plan amendments, planning stuff like that. There was also a notice and a public meeting about this bylaw, amendments to this bylaw that we saw just before the council meeting or committee of the whole meeting that then we discussed it. So the public meeting will be integrated in the council or committee of the whole meeting as part of the agenda because currently there's not actually a spot or a set out agenda for public meetings. So they've just been kind of floating at that 6 o'clock spot. Now we're integrating them and there's a spot for them and it's just a little more structured.
And if I may, just one last question. Somewhere in there, it talks about the public, if they wanted to bring a statement or a point of view regarding an agenda item. And I read it and I just want clarity. It said something to the extent of the agenda comes out, say, on a Thursday, and they would have until Friday at 2 orally. Is that correct? That orally, they don't need to spend a lot of time on this.
Right.
And
So
they just, and we'd want that they contact you and say, hey, we'd like to have a say,
yes,
a few minutes, 5 minutes of our time
exactly.
at a committee of the whole meeting. Is that correct?
Exactly. So right now, as the procedural bylaw is written,
Yep.
all delegations have to be into the clerk by the Monday before the agenda is released. So if there is something that comes up on the agenda that the public sees, they may not have known that it's going to be on the agenda and they've missed their window to request a delegation. So now they can either call me up or send me an email requesting to be a delegation by 2 o'clock the day after the agenda is posted, asking to speak to that specific agenda item.
Because right now, we do not have a mechanism that allows them to do that.
I just wanted to make sure that the public, the timing was okay, the process wasn't onerous.
Yes.
Hey, you contact
It's
yourself by 2 o'clock on Friday and you should.
exactly.
state.
And it's still, if they're looking to bring a new item forward,
Yeah.
they would have to
10 days.
request that, yes, 10 days before, but now they just have an opportunity to speak to a specific agenda item.
And would that be then, would they be a delegation or would they be,
They will still fall under the delegation
it would fall under that?
umbrella. Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're
And
welcome.
just for further clarity, if somebody is at our committee of the whole and is in the gallery and would like to ask a question, I am still receiving those questions. So this is more about people being able to make statements about items on the agenda that they feel, for whatever reason, there's missing information or they have a strong opinion about something. Because as of right now, that was not, our procedure was not to allow that.
That's
per se.
correct. Yes.
So. Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, Worship, and through to you, I'll just go back to the beginning. the benefit. Who or what benefits from this? Does this benefit the public? Is it supposed to benefit council? Does it just benefit staff? Like, why are we doing this
Go ahead, Sian.
exercise?
So in addition to providing more access to people who want to comment on a particular agenda item, this also improves the timing of our meetings so that we start at 6 o'clock, we have a public meeting. Most of our public meetings last 5 to 7 minutes. And then council sits around until 7:30. It's a nice opportunity to mingle and talk, but it's really not an efficient use of council time. Then we start our meeting at 6:30. And if we go in camera, then the mayor is saying to people at home, well, bear with us and we'll be back online whenever. So we've reshuffled that so it ends at the end of the program, so to speak, so that people aren't kept needlessly. Marnie, you want to jump in?
Thank you. I just want to add to that, that in the other way, it's also of a benefit in the fact that there have been a few situations where we've had a public meeting and it's run past 6:30, which is the start time for the council meeting. And because we have a council meeting schedule, we've had to cut off the public meeting, which isn't the way that we should be running a public meeting. We should be hearing everybody in the room that wants to speak to an application rather than saying, sorry, the meeting's over, we have to move into council. So if you want to make a submission, please do so in writing. So it benefits us that way as well, where we can actually see public meetings through to the conclusion if they do run over time, which is the challenge with them not actually being part of the agenda at this point.
Thank you. Councillor Lackey, did you have a follow-up? Are you good? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Grow.
Thank you. My definite last point. I know we hold traditionally our meetings on Mondays. Mondays throughout the year are always the day of holiday, some kind. We have 13 holidays within our township, except for Good Friday. Most of them are on Monday. What are the reasons that we use Monday instead of a Tuesday? Then we wouldn't have to shuffle the deck as we're going to shuffle it again tonight, I think. What would be the concept there? Why not Tuesday? And I do appreciate any conflict with
That was a
with-
one-off.
with
I
the
generally would
county.
ask.
What about Wednesdays? I mean, why does it have to be Mondays? Because we're always challenged. Look at the schedule. Oh, that's holiday. We got to move it to Tuesday. It happens constantly. Thank you.
That's a good question. I think Councillor Lackey, you would say that we've held meetings on Mondays pretty much the whole time you've been on council. It seems to. Go ahead.
One of the issues, and really shouldn't be an issue, but Gananoque is Tuesday. And at one time, we used to work quite closely together. So that was one, if we had a motion that they needed or vice versa, it gave us that separation between us and them. That was one of the reasons.
Okay.
Don't ask me what the other ones were, but we tried to change them several times. Everybody, some of the counselors, because most were retired, wanted daytime meetings. And it's like, it's not, this is for the public. This is for the people who elected us, not us. We want to do what is best for them. So I agree. I don't know. We shuffle Mondays, Tuesdays be fine.
I don't, okay, so I'm not opposed to having further discussion, but for the sake of this, can we leave that out of said discussion? Because then we can call the question on it.
But then through you, your worship, that is something that's derived from the table.
Correct, and I'm happy to have that come forward in the statements and listen, we haven't approved this yet, so we haven't changed it yet. Anyways, any further discussion with the conduct of members and the calling of meetings as it's presented to council? I don't see a hand up online. So with that, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Okay. So in regards to changing the meetings to another night of the week, I think that is something that could easily be discussed. And I think that I'll go back with the rest of staff and discuss that. If there's anybody who has strong feelings about it, please send me an email. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor. Flynn.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. You would know better than us. Does it fit the mayor's agenda?
I'm quite happy with it being on Monday and then the odd Tuesday it has to bump, say on, well, we don't have a meeting in August, so it doesn't, there's only two, so it's September long weekend and East Thanksgiving. So these are the two that we have to bump, but anyways, I still take it under advisement. And we'll have further discussion and potentially have further discussion here at this table, but thank you for asking. Okay. Next item is moved by Councillor Gorell, seconded by Councillor Lackey, that council authorizes Chief Administrative Officer and Director of Corporate Services / Treasurer jointly may, without increasing overall amount of suite of recruitment incentives, amend the amount of particular incentive and how the incentives are paid to the physician recruited to a family practice medicine in the township, and that the Chief Administrative Officer report to council on any amendments as made part of the successful recruitment of a physician. So motion is on the floor, folks, and I think the report speaks to why this is coming forward. We are definitely in a very fluid time where there is good news on the horizon, apparently, most recently in our local community. Having said that, I just wanted to speak to this a little bit, not to be biased one way or the other, but just so that council is aware of some of the other stuff that's happening at the county level. There are many initiatives that are bubbling up to the surface to help with the healthcare recruitment strategy that has been gone down the path with county. We are one of the more fortunate municipalities who has set aside money to assist in recruitment. But this is not unusual based on the fact that all manner of things could be on the table for recruitment purposes, depending on the area and the individual that's looking to come here. So I appreciate that the staff want to be able to be nimble. We don't want to lose out on an opportunity to replace one of the existing physicians or add to the suite for that matter. So that's all I'll say about that. Is there any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor, maybe, and then Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. I think it's a very good plan to be a little bit more fluid in attracting somebody who's actually able to bolster our need here in this area. And to that point, has there been any interest, even mildly, or large intent?
Go ahead, Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, St. Lawrence District Medical Center does have a serious prospect for an experiential locum at this point in time. They are hoping for more, but it is quite encouraging. So yeah, that's the little good news on the horizon.
Deputy Mayor Foti, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Reading this is just merely allowing those who are working up front with this agenda to tweak it, as I think that word was in there somewhere. It doesn't change the parameters as stated in the financial obligations. So absolutely, they should be able to mold it to whatever way it seems to fit better. When these initiatives were originally put forward, they were merely guidelines that were drawn from other areas or out of the air. But if this is all we have to do is to take the money we've already allotted and mold it this direction for this individual, that direction for another, by all means. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Antoine Hartley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I thoroughly think that this is a wonderful idea because we've been looking now for recruiting, and I think any way that we can be flexible to entice somebody to our area would be just, I'm in full agreement with that. Mold it the way we need to mold it. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? I have no hands up online, so I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we are carried. Next item, moved by Counselor Correll, seconded by Counselor Lackey, that council grant three readings and final passage to bylaw number 2025-017, being bylaw to authorize the lease of the property known as the Rockport Custom Stock to the Friends of the Rockport Customs Restoration Society. Discussion on the motion. I have no hands up, or Counselor Correll, go ahead.
Just want to make the point, I think $1, we're overcharging them.
Any further comments or quips? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's carried. Next item, moved by Counselor Correll, seconded by Counselor Lackey, that council approves award of tender OPS 2025-014 for the acquisition of one half-ton 4x4 truck to James Braden Ford Limited in the amount of $65,054.66, inclusive of the net HST. Discussion on this motion. I have Counselor Maybe. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through to the Director of Operations. This truck that we're going to get, does it need any other modifications made to it to put it back in service or just transfer of material?
Through your worship, the only thing we'd have to do to this is put the AVL, the GPS unit in it, and then it's good to go.
Any further comments or questions? Just a comment before we call the question on this. If memory serves me correctly, we just approved one of these at the county, and I want to say it was 62 or 63,000, so we're within the ballpark. Having said that, there was a number of members of county council that brought up the fact that we should be tendering these types of trucks together, potentially getting a bulk order if possible. And so I put that to you, Director Holiday. I know that it is your desire to work together at any point in time. But my hope is that with a change of Director of Public Works and a new CAO, that we might see some of those paths of collaboration a little more smoother. Okay. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? We're carried. Next item, moved by Counselor Lackey, seconded by Counselor or Deputy Mayor Fody, the council elects to amend council meeting schedule for 2025 and cancel the May 12th, 2025 council meeting and change the May 5th, 2025 meeting from committee of the whole into a council meeting. Discussion on this motion for clarity for the public is just that I have been called away to represent Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus at Queen's Park that particular day and will not be able to be back. And so I've asked for this grace in that reason. So go ahead, Councillor Groh.
I'd just like to point out, I don't know what the agenda is going to be, but we have 4 public meetings scheduled, I think, on that day. Does that make it too heavy agenda?
The agenda, the only reason we're willing to consider this is that the agenda is actually quite light for the committee of the whole. Otherwise, I would not have burdened council with that. But sorry, Deputy or Director Venditti.
Thank you. I was just going to confirm that a couple of the public meetings are conditions of consent approval. So there's already been public meetings held at the county's level. So I don't expect that the length of time for the public meetings will be much more than the half hour.
Okay.
If that.
Any further comment or question? So it's just, we're having it the first Monday and not the second Monday.
How about Tuesday?
So it'd be the first Monday of May would be our regular, what would be our usual committee of the whole. We're turning it into a council meeting. So
Through your worship as well, for clarity, it will be a council meeting, so everything can be approved on that council meeting. But for flexibility's sake, we're not going to not let you speak to items like you would at a committee of the whole meeting.
it's not very often I don't let any of you speak, contrary to public belief, except maybe Councillor Lackey that I just love to string out as long as I can. Go ahead, Councillor
You're
Lackey.
awesome. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, whatever we do change this, if we could make sure we change all of the spots on our website. Sometimes it's changed on Civic Web
Yep.
and not here, not there, not Facebook. We
We
can
will
capture
endeavor to
them
do
all.
that.
I've seen that numerous times where depending on what device I'm on or where I am in the country, I'll you pick one and I go, wait a minute, I thought that was changed.
Mm. Thank you. We'll pay close attention to that. Any further comment or question on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? You're opposed, are you, Councillor Kelman? It was just a, it was just a delay. It's all good. Next item is a bit lengthy, but I think well worthwhile. So Councillor Lackey is moving and seconded by Councillor Maybe. Whereas at the meeting on April 7th, 2025, Committee of the Whole received a request from a resident to waive the $1,200 advertising deposit fee for advertising a proposed road allowance closure in the newspaper. And whereas the request indicated that other methods of providing public notice would be more appropriate for the application than publishing notice in the local newspaper. And whereas council is not supportive of changing a bylaw process on an ad hoc basis as requested. And whereas staff have noted that there are 3 existing bylaws that establish varying requirements for notification regarding a request to convey an unopened road allowance. Therefore, be it resolved that staff review the existing bylaws and notice requirements and bring forward an updated unopened road allowance policy, including notification requirements for council's consideration. I appreciate this motion. Thank you, Councillor Lackey, because I think it will make things clearer in the end, but go ahead if you'd like to speak to it.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, just to carry on, you know, I just brought this motion forward because the gentleman was looking for an answer. I don't think he's going to like my answer, but we needed to get it on the table to get him one, and as well, just to have a closer look at this, because I think it's needs changing. Again, be more fluid with today's ways of advertising, number one, and cost of advertising, number two. I know it's very costly for newspapers, but regardless, it has to be in a democratic way, needs to be publicized somewhere for a number of reasons. So if it promotes a conversation and we make it better, great. But as far as giving him his money back, I won't be voting in favor.
Well, just for clarity purposes, the person who had asked for this has not made an application at this point. Was looking for relief prior to application. So anyways, this is just bringing the policy forward so that we can unify the 3 varying existing bylaws that exist. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Director of Planning and Development. Do I remember this properly that when advertising in the newspaper, it has to be 3 consecutive days, or does that phrase not exist anymore? It can be 3 consecutive weeks in the case of the GAN paper?
Through you, it's 4 consecutive weeks.
Weeks.
So
Okay.
it's 4 publications.
Okay. This neighbor of mine that had brought this forward in person last week brought up some good points in that we are so remote, I guess, sarcastically I could say, but also in reality. My wife and I live 4 houses further in or west of this location, and the Brockville paper about 3 years ago refused to deliver to us anymore, although we had been taking that subscription for years, because we were too far removed from the last prior drop off, wherever that may have been. The reason I didn't want to switch to the Kingston Whig, Kingston does not cover Leeds Grenville like Brockville used to, or somewhat still does. So this gentleman's points about the paper being almost irrelevant as far as neighbors reading it is very actual, and it likely isn't unique to just our little locale in the township. So thanks for the clarity for our Director of Planning and Development. It's weekly, but well, I'll just leave it at that. The GAN paper, it wouldn't take much to get missed on that because it's getting weaker in its own right. Thank you.
Just to be clear that this is not changing the policy, but rather directing staff to bring forward a new and updated, clear policy. Okay. Any further comments or questions? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Next item. Moved by Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Antoine Hartley, that 3rd readings and final passage should be granted to bylaws I just want to make sure that I'm not reading the incorrect ones. Double checking with the clerk. Oh, I did need to do my mayor's update anyway, so thank you very much. I apologize. I got so excited with the new bylaws. There's a lot of bylaws here this evening. Does everybody notice that? Because we are taking feedback and trying to be better here. So, the last few weeks has been busy. I did take a short break to myself after OGRA, after attending with our Director of Operations and our road supervisor. As always, I find that the conference at OGRA is always very informative as far as learning and better understanding how our roads department and public infrastructure needs can be met, whether it be through equipment or engineering or just understanding how things are done at other municipalities. I met a number of other elected officials at this particular conference who have been going through sort of the same thing as far as asset management and trying to get everything back on track and really have a robust financial plan to fund that. So I appreciate the opportunity to attend. And I know that we always appreciate being able to listen to the speakers and better understand what is happening across the province. I also had the pleasure of speaking to the folks in Rockport on Thursday. I was invited by the Rockport group to speak at the Church of the Redeemer, just about myself and what I do and what I've done and what I'm hoping to do in the future. I had a really great conversation in regards to homelessness and housing, and pinning a bow on the end of it in regards to the strong mayor announcement that had come out the day before. I think there was about 40-ish people, between 30 and 40 people that were there. Really great to engage. And the irony is that most of the questions were actually about county matters, not necessarily township matters. They had some questions, but just as many about county. And talking about physician recruitment. We talked about the drive at the county level for virtual triage, VTAC, as we call it, which is my goal before my end of term as warden, to hopefully have a virtual triage clinic stood up here somewhere in Leeds and Grenville to help address the issues for all those who are currently untethered without family physicians or primary medical care. We have two things happening Wednesday, which one is the Chamber of Commerce in Gananoque are having their annual breakfast for their annual general meeting, mayor's breakfast. My apologies. And so I'm got to split my time between the two because I'm giving a speech at one and then giving a speech at the other. So I'll be doing both. So I hope that if you haven't got your tickets already, that you are able to do so. And I believe there's some other members of council that might be in attendance as well. And the other thing, I noticed that the rodeo tickets for the Lansdowne Agricultural Society have since come for sale, and that is the weekend of the 26th, I believe. 23rd, 24th, and it was the 20th, is the weekend after the long weekend. So if you haven't got your tickets, I would strongly recommend that you do get them in advance, because if memory serves me correctly, they had to close the gates and they were not allowing purchase at the gates because they were at capacity. So if you have intention on going, please make sure you purchase your tickets ahead of time. Maple syrup is at the end of its season, I believe, and we are done. So we would like to thank our colleague here at the table who has generously allowed us to taste some of the wares that that he worked so hard at. So thank you very much, Councillor Lackey, for sharing the abundance. Sorry. Maybe I'll remember him. Counselor, maybe for your You know, I've had a long week. It's only Monday. See, I don't think it matters, Counselor Garrell, what night of the week. Anyways, all that to say, it was extremely busy week last week with 4 county meetings, and they also had a breakfast for economic development for business, their business breakfast at the Township of Front of Young, which they had at their Legion, which was well attended. And one of our local business owners was the speaker there, Heather Howard from Fox Run. So busy time, busy week. Spring is coming. I believe that we will have spring cleanup coming here soon. Director Holiday. I believe that we provide gloves and bags for those doing roadside cleanup. So please watch our social media channels and our newsletters in regards to cleanup days and getting as additional equipment to do that. Is there anything else I'm missing, folks? Oh, yes. I'm looking forward to having an extra day off this week. It is Easter weekend for those who celebrate. We wish you a lovely long weekend, and we hope that you're able to celebrate it with those that you care about the most. And so we will be closed here on Good Friday, which means the township office is closed on Good Friday. And on Saturday, landfills will be open. And Monday we will be closed. So all of that information is on our website if you have any questions or concerns. But if you're doing any spring cleanup in and around home, please try to plan ahead. If you need an amnesty ticket, please come in and see our wonderful staff here at the township office. Otherwise, get your dump tickets in advance and start your spring cleaning. Any other? And I'll have Councillor maybe and then Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. May is going to be a busy month with town crier events. Championships on May 17th, 18th in town of Gananoque. I have 14 criers from across the province coming so far. So I look forward to seeing some smiling faces out there to see what shenanigans these guys get into, and gals for that matter. On May 25th, Lions Guide Dog. That's happening in town of Gananoque also. And I will be bringing my favorite four-legged friend for that walk also. So look for other details on that on the webpage. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Fody, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. And I've had conversations with a number of people the last few weeks. It's not so much questions as on comments. It's noticeable, the residents, on the quality of some of the county roads, and they're some of the ones are asking, does the county have the same type of agenda that our director of operations has, in that there's certain roads going to be dealt with on certain years and done in certain ways? I don't need an answer to that tonight to put you on the spot, but residents travel these county roads. We all do. And it's becoming noticeable more each year, the deterioration on these roads. So if that's something you care to answer someday, not
I
tonight.
could actually answer it tonight. So
Okay.
the short answer is yes, there is a plan. I would say this is our first iteration of it. It doesn't look necessarily the same as what we're used to seeing. However, it is on a spreadsheet. So year 2025, the list is here, and then year 2026. So it just moves along. So the list of roads that are going to be addressed, or sections of roads, because that's the other thing that a lot of people may not understand, is that you don't do County Road 3 in its entirety, you do sections of it. However, it has not gone unnoticed. Even the rest of us at the county council table, this is something that we've been pushing for a long time. So to finally have an asset management plan come forward with a projected bunch of projects to be completed. However, one of the other issues that we have been concerned about as county council is the fact that there are many of these projects that we approve to be done in 2025 that don't get done or end up being carried over. Now, there are lots of good reasons why sometimes this happens, but it was becoming more and more apparent that every year we were carrying these forward and they just weren't getting done. So my hope is that I actually have a meeting tomorrow to go through the long list of those people who have applied for the Director of Public Works at the county. And we will be beginning interviews next week. And our hope is to have somebody hired, an offer go out prior to the end of April, and have a new director in place hopefully by June. Our current acting director is Bill Guy, who was the manager. I forget what his role, their title was, but anyways, things are still moving along. And one thing I will give full credit to Mr. Guy for is that many more of our tenders went out earlier this year at the county level. So what I will do is I will work with the clerk to find the piece of the budget that it's embedded in and try to endeavor to have it sent out to all of you. And then if people want it, I don't think it's a bad idea to necessarily cross promote it with what's happening at the county level. So that's the sort of a long answer, I guess, not a short answer. Okay. Further comments or questions or announcements? Oh, Angie Kelman, my apologies. You should have just turned your microphone on and yelled at me. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I just wanted to add a couple more dates. The Lyndhurst, Sealy's Bay and District Chamber of Commerce has a newly elected board, and they are going to be hosting a meet and greet on April 24th at 7 p.m. at the Lyndhurst Legion. So I would encourage any members of the public or certainly business owners that are interested in getting more information to attend that. And also the Lyndhurst Community Organization is holding their AGM on April 29th at 7 in the Lyndhurst Library. Thank you.
Okay, any other announcements? Seeing none, now I will move on to the confirmatory bylaw. Moved by Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Antoine Hartley, that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaws 2025-001, 0012, 0013, 0014, 015, 016, 017, 018, 019, 020, skipping over the 021. That is not included in this 3 readings and final passage. Moving on to the 2025-022, that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw number 2025-23, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands at its April 14th, 2025 council meeting. Discussion on the motion. Took out the consultation policy. Yeah. It's 21. It's 21. 19 is the land acknowledgement. Here, we'll just have the clerk double check, please. Would you? She's going back to her. Thank you for checking, double checking. Okay. Sorry. So my apologies. It's 3 readings and final passage to granted to bylaws 2025-011 through to 018, removing 2025-019, and then going from 2025-020, 021, 022, and that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw number 2025-023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands at its April 14th, 2025 council meeting. Thank you for the correction. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's carried. Next item is adjournment, moved by Councillor Lackey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fody. Council adjourn at 8:09 p.m. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Thank you, everyone.